Okay, let's go to a final question for this week. And as I said, I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks, so the next live Q&A earliest will be in 3 weeks' time. Okay, but you can still send in questions to desk@inFxproject.com and just send in those questions. Say healing questions in the subject line, and I'll take them in for the next Q&A. So from what I understand, there's always a decision maker at work whenever we make any kind of judgment on the information that we collect. To make it easier to grasp, would you be able to give examples of what it looks like when our different decision makers, whether in adult self or inner child, make sense of what information collectors are bringing to the table? So if there's time, I would love to hear examples of both INFJs and INFPs. If not, please start with INFP and I'll and then get to INFJs. Okay, so you're an INFP who's asking this question. And yes, so whenever you make any kind of a judgment on any information that you receive from your information collectors, then you will be using the decision-making parts of you to make that judgment. Okay, so when we're looking at the grown-up decision makers, INFP's grown-up decision maker is inward-facing feeling, the ethicist. So your adult self part of you. That is the part of you that makes decisions. And what that looks like is when you make a decision that is actually true and right, the right thing to do. So for example, you might go, you might have an opportunity, let's just say somebody paid you twice for a job that you did and they haven't noticed that error that they've paid you twice. It would be your adult self, your ethicist, that would send the second payment back and say, hey, you paid me twice by mistake, thanks very much, but here's the money back. Or if your adult self inward feeling is in a not very healthy space and is feeling very kind of self-righteous, then if you get paid twice, you might go like, I'm not going to send back this second payment because I deserve this second payment because I've worked so hard. So can you see how it's about your judgment of what feels right for you? That is the INFP grown-up decision maker. What feels right for you? What's the right thing to do according to your inner parameter of what is right? So that's how that feels. For INFJs, it looks a little bit different. So it looks like the outward-facing feeling, which is the inner parent, or the unifier, what we call the unifier. That's the inner parent part of the INFJ. When the INFJ inner parent is making really good decisions, very strong decisions based on whatever information they're getting, they make in a positive sense, they're able to make decisions that take themselves into consideration and other people as well. So they're trying to create unity between themselves and others. But it starts with making sure that your own needs are being met and then the needs of others. And when it's really unhealthy, it's very self-sacrificing. It's not taking the self into consideration, but just focusing on what other people need. So that's how that looks. So when our grown-up decision maker collects or accepts information from our inner child information collector, this is how it looks. So for INFP, the inner child information collector is the 10-year-old inner child, or inward-facing sensing, or what we call the historian. So when the adult self, in your case as an INFP, takes the information from the inner child part of you, they're both inward-facing, so the decisions that you make are completely self-referencing. So you're referring to the past with the historian to see this is how this has always been, so that's how it's going to be going forward, and then you make a decision based on that, and it's completely a subjective decision-making process because both of those are inward-facing, so both of them are self-referencing. What that looks like to the outside world is that you're really self-focused, self-centered, and you only consider yourself. That's how it looks like. For INFJs, because their inner child information collector is outward facing, and it's outward facing sensing part of you, what it looks like is when your grown-up part of you or your inner parent is making decisions based on the information that the 3-year-old is collecting, it looks like you're picking up people's needs in real time and scrambling to get those needs met. And you're you don't take yourself into consideration at all. You're extremely reliant on getting the feedback from the other people on how you're doing, and how it looks like to other people is that you're very needy. So those are the answers to those questions. How does the inner child information collector kind of when it feeds to the grown-up decision maker for both types. Now, so we also have as part of the grown-ups, we have one decision maker and one information collector. And when we feed the information from the grown-up part of us, the grown-up information collector, to the grown-up decision maker, for the INFP, what it looks like is that you look into the outside world and you collect information saying, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible. You're able to make these, you're able to take two separate issues and come up with a great solution that not only gets rid of those or resolves those issues, but also resolves a myriad of other issues that you weren't even thought about. It's like you get this amazing, it's like a superpower of taking one or two problems, getting combined solution, and then making this massive difference in the world. And that's how it looks like for the INFP. It's like you use your outward facing intuition to take in the information and the kind of the patterning of what happens in the outside world, and then make that really meaningful and authentic, make some meaningful and authentic decisions and resolutions to those problems. And when you do that, that's extremely powerful. And then for the INFJ, so you have inward-facing intuition as the adult self. So with that inward-facing intuition, when you collect information with that, what it looks like is that you recognize patterns and points of reference to different things, and when you bring all those points of references into your internal library, you're able to pull out the information that you need for a specific occurrence. And when you're taking that information and you're feeding it to the grown-up decision maker, which of course is the unifier as the inner parent for the INFJ, then what happens is that you're able to not only solve your own problems, look after yourself, but solve a whole myriad of problems for other people in the outside world and bring people together as you're doing it. So those two ways for the INFJ and the INFP sound very similar, and that's why we often get along so well, because our experience is so similar. It's just the process in how we get there is different. So that's what I would say to that. Thank you very much for that question. I think Mari asked that question actually of me, and that is a very good question, and I can tell that you've done a lot of work in this piece. And of course, Mari is our intern who's helping us with this amazing INFP healing group. So that's it for today. Thank you everyone for your questions. I'm going to do my best to tag you into these questions, or I'm maybe asking Abby to help me with that. and yeah, thank you so much everyone for your amazing questions. And I will talk to you in 3 weeks' time. You have a great couple of weeks, and look after yourself. Look after yourself. You're worth it.